going. Yeah. NASCAR.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, let me go back to here. All right, we might as well go ahead and get started. This is the March Air Reserve Base Aero Club safety meeting. And if you have no clue what I'm talking about, then you're probably in the wrong room. My name is Roger Mann. I'm the safety officer, and John Law here is the chief pilot. And the Aero Club manager, I have absolutely no idea where he's at. And our chief, yeah, you sure was. And our chief maintenance guy is sitting back there, David G. No, stand longer than that. And yeah, and the best pilot in the whole world sitting next to him, Malcolm Campbell. So yeah, he can fly helicopters too. What?
You talking about me?
Yes, yes I am. And you can fly helicopters too.
Gyrocopters, huh?
And
Gyrocopters.
yeah, and then we got yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, now we can start. The wing safety is here. So, David, thank you.
He's a lefty, so he's cool.
Okay. What we do usually as a routine and it's kind of tradition is that we do a certain agenda when we do the club at the beginning. And what we do is that the first thing we do is we introduce new people. And I don't care if it's been, 2 months. If it's anything 2 months since you've been in the club, then you're like a new member, okay? Okay, so I do know for a fact we got 4 people sitting here, or at least 1. I mean, you can introduce your wife too. Okay, why don't you go ahead and start, introduce yourself. Yes, you.
Hi, my name is Ning. I just joined months ago, and my wife, Victoria, joined.
Hi. They both joined.
Yeah, we both joined. I don't know how to fly, and nice to meet all of you. Hopefully all learn something from you guys.
All right. Welcome to the club. All right, next.
I'm a retread. Sorry, I'm back. Paris Reed, my wife Celia. Coming back, starting training again. That's about it.
Okay. Welcome back. Let's see. I guess that's it. Looks like it. Okay. All right. Has anybody done anything new? Like in their, this includes solo, anything like that. I don't know. George usually has something, but that's experiences.
I got a lot, but it's a long story, so you have to buy the book.
Okay. Okay. As long as it's cheap.
That's good.
Can you do the bullet format?
Anybody done it? Even with the silver, it doesn't have to be Aero Club.
I got my high performance, so I'm one step closer to being a ground.
All right.
Okay, well, that's something. Air Force, gotten a check ride lately, or?
No, but I haven't failed one either. So.
That's a good news.
Well, that's good. Yes, that's very good.
On the other hand,
Any violations from the FAA? None? Okay, good.
None that we can talk about.
None that you can talk about. How many?
at least I don't have any.
Well, how many have had to turn in the NASA get out of jail card?
Oh, I did that with the airline.
Yeah, I know Bob. Well, Bob does it. Yeah, I know.
How many people know about it is the question,
Well,
How many people know about it?
there should be people that
Just
should
carry
know
one in your
about it.
kit bag at all times.
Yeah.
I don't know if some people aren't, well, Dave, you can tell us more about it.
Talking about you said ASAP, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you
Screw up.
when you screw up, offline up front, when you screw up, you report it, and that gives you quite a bit of coverage, so the FAA won't come find you and penalize you for your mistake. So of course, it can't be some type of criminal negligent act. It has to be an honest mistake. You report it, and that gives you protection.
I had a friend that long time back, went through some restricted airspace down in San Diego area. And he thought, okay, center got him all straightened out back, and he thought everything was fine until the FAA come after me to go for a check ride and got violated and all that. And if you just turned in the NASA form, you would have been scot-free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
when in doubt, fill it out.
Yeah.
TFR violations, miscommunications with controlling agencies, fill it out.
And all statements that you make on the NASA form are and remain confidential. So the
Yeah.
one of the only times that the lawyer will tell you to confess.
One lawyer around here, resident,
Yeah.
keep it straight.
How much you gonna charge us for that?
That one's free, next one will come.
There is a newsletter that comes out. I get it every month. That does have the instances that has been turned in, and of course they don't give names or anything like that. But and of course it's usually the pilots get their they get their permission to do it. But it's a very good newsletter. It really, I'm telling you, man, it opens your eyes a little bit. The one that they were on this month is on NOTAMs and how the NOTAM system is kind of broken. There's just so many NOTAMs out there that pilots are literally missing NOTAMs for where they're flying to. And the stories that they had in there were three, including ATC, did not see the NOTAM for a VOR that was shut down. And this included ATC, the pilot who wrote the thing up, and another pilot that was behind him shooting a VOR approach. And they missed the NOTAMs completely. Never saw it. And because there's just piles and piles of it. And so the FAA is trying to fix that problem, and they're supposedly working on it to try to make the NOTAMs a little more area specific. So in other words, like if you're flying from point A to B, you're not going to be getting NOTAMs for area C and D and all the other ones too. So it's kind of a, at least that's what the article was implementing. Okay, all right, here comes, this is where George sometimes stands up, but has anybody done anything that was exciting that we can find out and know about? Like Gene, maybe? Yeah. Yeah. Like you ran off the end of the runway and didn't tell anybody or something like that. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be just Aero. Like I say, the Aero Club does not have to be the only place that gets it. It could be from anything, Air Force, anything. Boy, I'll tell you, nobody's doing anything, are they?
Slow month.
It's a slow month. Okay, we're going to talk to the Aero Club manager, and then we're going to cover real quick the SOPs, like we do, and then our topic tonight's summer flying, and I think that's about it. Okay, Bob, you're up.
It's gonna be a quickie. It'll be a quickie.
Yeah, mine's good.
Flight time last month, 43 hours is the lowest we've been, the club has been since I first came on in '06. So we're looking at trying to increase our flight time. If you're not flying, I just ask you to come out and at least put in an hour on the airplanes. 03 has got 1 hour on it, and that was a test flight. If we're not going to fly 03, I'm going to put it down for insurance, to say $320, because that's where I am. 29 Foxtrot has got 4 hours on it. That doesn't even pay for the insurance for the month. There's nothing wrong with 29, although I've requested an input date to have the radar, I beg your pardon, the altimeter and the decoder installed and do a cert check for the PDOT static. So I was waiting for the individual to get back. Reminds me I need to call him for tomorrow.
So 2.9, Bob?
Yes, sir, 2.9.
Have we still looked into any of the instrument package on that yet or no? For this radio?
Instrument package? No.
The radio package, no?
Nope, I'm on hold for those things, yep. So anyway, think about that, because as it stands, we're not gonna be able to survive. I'm just giving you the facts. I don't wanna discuss it at this time, but, it's gonna be, we'll probably have about 1 year to show where we're gonna go on this. Maintenance, let me just cover real quick, like, 555 we had going, we thought we had a good airplane after it got back from the wing repair, and now we got a bladder leak. David fixed the bladder leak on the nipple for the input into the engine itself, and we got a leak somewhere else. So as soon as they topped it off, it started leaking, so we drained out 12 gallons, and that's where he sits. So I have a bladder that's on order. It's a 3-week lead time. I'm not sure when we'll get it back after that, but even another company up in Minnesota, it's 3-week lead time on it again. So we're doing it locally out of Santa Fe Springs with Aerotech. 5-7, I got Tim coming in the morning. We're going to do the fuel checks again, engine run, and if not, we're pulling the fuel pump on that. We're sending everything in for a bench check in regards to that engine there not reaching RPM. It appears that it was doing well on the test tracks under the initial startup on that aircraft. Engine sounds great, but we're not getting enough fuel to get the RPM up and produce the horsepower. So there's no flying with that airplane, because as it stands now, the cylinders will get scorched and burnt because it's running on the lean side. The rest of the aircraft are doing well. The 182 is doing real well. The 2 T-41As are doing well, and 03 is not flying, but the test flight showed that it was flying pretty well. So we're switching out 6.6, we're going back to 03 now. That's a good airplane.
And that's high performance, right?
Yes.
Over 200 horsepower.
Yep, yep.
Over 200 horsepower is considered high performance.
210 horsepower fuel injected engine. And it's a nice flying airplane. If you love to fly, that's a plane to take. It's a Cessna 172 fuselage with a high performance engine in it.
You put 4 people in bags and take off on a hot day, over 100 degrees here, and get to Las Vegas with no problem. That's the way it is. Credit card renewals. Roger had 20 rejections this month due to credit card renewal dates were not informed to him. So again, we ask that you, when you get a new credit card and you initiate it, get a hold of Roger and give him the updates as to what the card is, whether the dates have changed or whether the code has changed. So every time we do that, I think we're getting charged. We can't prove it, but our bill shows it. TFR this weekend, Miss Obama will be in Los Angeles for the Olympics, for the handicapped Olympians. We're not sure where the TFR is going to go. More than likely, it will show up on Thursday night, maybe Friday morning. It's always the last minute with the White House. I don't know if you've heard of anything that's going on back there, but it's always the last minute because they want to keep it secret. You know, it's a big deal. We know where she's going. So we're not sure it's going to be 30 DME or whether it be a 25 DME. We're not sure where that's going to happen, so just be away. I went out with an email for a flyaway this Saturday for breakfast, and I haven't gotten any takers yet, although we do have 2 airplanes that are reserved. So is anybody interested in flyaway for breakfast this weekend? Raise your hands. So I got Tyler. I think Andrew and Aviva have got an airplane reserved. So if we can't get anything more, then we're just going to cancel again. And of course, again, the TFR we're not sure of.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is that TFR. We don't know. We don't have a clue what's going on with that.
So we're going east, huh?
Yeah.
East.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Any questions? Comments? Thank you.
Okay. Let me go ahead and. Okay. I just run over real quick a little bit of the SOPs, and I go paragraph by paragraph each safety meeting. So we just kind of cover some stuff real quick. This talks about the member negligence and insurance deductible. The bottom line is, if you ding a wingtip, you possibly could have to end up paying for that wingtip. And that's true with any FBO. It doesn't matter who it is. Especially if it's through pure negligence. So far we've had, in the 10 years I've been doing this, we've only had one incident, and the individual taxied his airplane with the winds blowing, gusting to like 25 knots. And he didn't think about the fact that he had to get to the end of the runway. Even though the winds were blowing straight down the middle of the runway, he thought, oh, this is great, I can just take off on that runway. But the problem is when he was taxiing out there, and when he tried to turn to get onto the runway, the wind picked up the right wing and just took it right over on the nose of the airplane. So he didn't have to pay for a new engine, but he did have to pay for the cost of transporting our mechanic out there and putting a new engine in and all that kind of stuff. So just be aware, if you do leave a master switch on, it's an automatic $60. And we've had some members in here have to pay that. So just remember to shut off that master switch. And
That's up there for the no-shows.
yeah,
A good habit to get into.
that's another part of this, but yeah, for no shows, yes.
Good
The
habit
first
to get into.
first 30 minutes will be charged to them for the cost of the airplane.
What I do on my aircraft on the master switch, I leave my rotating beacon on all the time. That way, if I walk away from the airplane and I look back at the tail, the beacon's going, I know I screwed up and left the master switch on. You know,
Yeah.
that light on doesn't leave, switch, you leave that on all the time. And now light, the beacon.
And there's a lot of places that do that. I know a lot of FBOs that do that. Okay, any questions? Okay. All right. How many here have read the latest safetygram? Anybody? Come on.
You're supposed to.
You're supposed
Oh, I
to
read it,
before
I
you
read it.
fly.
Good answer, John.
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know. Did you want to try to talk about it a little bit? Because tonight, what we're talking about is summertime flying, okay? And the safetygram happens to hit right smack dab in the middle of it. Go ahead.
Well, it's just that the heat affects your flying, not only the airplane, but it affects you too. The air's less dense. If you fly up to Big Bear, the density altitude goes way up also. So it affects the airplane, less thrust and all that business. Also affects you. You're in the airplane and you're sweating, and your performance might go down also. So something to think about. Stay hydrated, of course. Take water with you. Anything I forgot?
Climb out at 90 miles an hour, better.
Yeah, that's right. Use cruise
Yeah.
line. Yeah, you'll keep the engine cooler. So think about those when you're flying this month, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to cover tonight just a few of the other items. We're really kind of hitting this kind of light tonight. That's why I highly advise when you come into the club to read that safetygram, because he really gets into some pretty neat stuff. Tonight, what I'm going to do is kind of cover the rest of the stuff. We talked about density altitude last time, and we talked about the Koch chart, and
Easy for you to say.
yeah, that's really easy for me to say. And we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to advise that everybody might carry that thing with them. I know one individual for sure has got it, and I think that's something that's worthwhile. Okay, it's 110 degrees out, and you show up to club to fly, and your car's air conditioning is not working, and you're overheated, and you haven't drunk anything for an hour. John Law is sitting in there with an air-conditioned office and having a nice cup of iced tea, and he says, okay, you ready to go right now? And what would you say to him?
Sure.
Joan's over there going,
Sure, I mean, John.
yes, he is. Yeah. Well,
I would ask John if he had the plane pre-flight yet.
yeah. I do have the safetygram here, and I got some of the things in here, but basically, overall, and what John was talking about is that we sometimes as pilots tend to kind of trot along doing our job flying an airplane, and we want to get out there and we want to fly. And I know in the Air Force, when I was flying in the Air Force, one of the things that we noticed is that by the time we got into the airplane, the crew chief had the airplane kind of cooled off with, you know, sometimes with the ground air conditioning, but not always. But by the time you start the engine, the air conditioning is going in a jet, and so you're ready to go and everything's nice. In these airplanes, we don't have that luxury, in case you haven't noticed. Especially in the T-34, with the nice big bubble over your head with that nice warm sun. In the summertime, it's not the best place to be. In the wintertime, I suppose it's okay. You know, is it? Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things that you need to just kind of be cognizant of, and you can be, but there's some things that you need to kind of remind yourself of too. Okay, I'm not going to go through that. Okay. Heat exhaustion. And my little scenario I had in there where the air conditioning wasn't working in your car, or you don't have an air conditioning in your car. Well, you know, when you get these heated days, and we're actually, they're projecting to have us have a El Nino, which, I mean, we already have had one, or a storm from El Nino, and they're saying that this one's unusually going to be even more so this year. So we could end up with some really humid and hot days, and then in between we have clear as a bell days with the sun beating down on us. And one of the things that can happen is that one of the things that the author of the safetygram says is that he's seen it with some of his students where students literally almost passed out just doing the pre-flight, walking around the airplane. The thing that you got to be is totally cognizant of what your ability is and what you can take. I know some of us seem to think that, you know, we're invincible, especially if you're young. But there's some of us old people too that kind of think that way too. So I won't say who, but that's one of the things you got to watch out for. You have the greenhouse effect in the cockpit, and of course you cannot say enough about drinking water. Now I know that there's some people that don't like water. I know a couple of people that don't like drinking water. Well, if you can't drink water, at least get something that's liquid that will not dehydrate you. What will dehydrate you, usually?
Tea.
Okay, tea, coffee,
Alcohol.
alcohol, that's right, yeah. Of course, you shouldn't be. Yeah. You know, a lot of people use iced tea to drink, you know, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but one of the things I found, you know, flying with the Air Force is that you really have to be careful with that too, because the unfortunate thing about a military airplane, or at least in the C-17 and 141 and the KC-135 to a certain degree, although you sweat to death in that thing before you take off, but the air conditioning will sap all the fluids out of you. And if you're drinking coffee and iced tea, that's not the best thing in the world for you. In these airplanes, you don't have air conditioning sapping or sucking things out of you, but you do have the possibility of getting heat exhaustion. Just doing the walk around in the airplane and then getting in the airplane and flying in it. And so you got to be really, if you know, you got to have some kind of liquid to drink to replenish your fluids.
Oh, just for grins, has anyone in here ever had heat exhaustion or sunstroke or anything? 2, 3, 4. I've had it a couple of times, and one time out here on the base about 6 years ago, some of you remember Kimberly and Ken Hansen, and I got out from under the aircraft cleaning it, and we're under the T-34, and it's fairly close. We've got that cleaning fluid like Pledge,
Yeah.
and the stuff was getting to me, and I wasn't feeling. And I stood up, and she caught me as I was falling over. I was out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was dehydrated, I guess, a lot more than and she caught it, or I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
But I'd have hit the concrete.
Well, you probably would have hit the concrete. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
just really, really, really be careful out there with this hot.
Yeah. It's that there's. I'm going to say something, and Bob probably is not going to like it, but if you're out there trying to clean the airplane and it's that hot, and you start feeling yourself being a little bit woozy, stop cleaning the airplane and come inside. If my air conditioning isn't on, kick me in the head and turn it on. I should have it on anyhow. But and cool down. I know Tyler does it all the time. He'll come in and he'll stand right in front of the air conditioner, and so does Malcolm. And and then go out and finish what you can. But if it gets to the point where you're going to start doing like what happened to Malcolm, maybe you better think about yourself rather than the airplane, and we'll worry about having to finish getting it cleaned.
My big point was it sneaks up on you. Because
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. I didn't feel really bad. I just felt kind of, this is weird.
Yeah,
And I was gone. Just, boom.
yeah. And I've heard of more than one case of that happening. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add to that, or had experience with any of that? Yeah.
People should use the P chart.
Yeah. That's right.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. That's we've actually got one in the in the Civil Air Patrol bathroom, and it tells you if you're hydrated or dehydrated. Yeah.
Looks like Genesee Medical.
Huh? Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea, Aviva. That's definitely a good idea.
Too much vitamin B or you
Yeah.
Yellow, orange, red, problems.
Okay, how many remember I'm safe? Obviously it's up there, but illness, meds, stress, alcohol, fatigue, and argument with your instructor, emotions. That happens with John quite often.
I never argue.
You never argue. That's right. You just tell them that's it. Yeah. Illness, obviously, if you're ill, you probably shouldn't be flying at all. If you're on meds, okay, what kind of meds are you on? Is it over-the-counter med that you just are taking because you have a cold or something like that? No, you probably shouldn't do that. Some of you that were here a couple of years ago when Bob and I had a little skit we had up here on meds, where we were popping pills all over the place and flying an airplane, see? And we were pretending. They weren't real, well,
Is that what it was?
yeah, they were actually, yeah, well, some of them were real, but
You
anyway.
guys weren't practicing the other day when I saw you then?
Yeah, we don't talk about that, so. If it's the meds that the FAA has approved, of course, obviously you can take those. But if it's something like, for instance, let's just say, David G. and I go up and fly, and I'm not feeling well, and David says, well, I got some of these pills from my doctor the other day, and
I got the guy in the corner.
from the guy in the corner, yeah. But you don't have a clue what that med's going to do to you. You don't have a clue. You don't know if it's going to put you to sleep or it's going to make you a crazy man or whatever. Just don't do something that's new or that you don't know anything about when you're flying an airplane. You shouldn't do it flying a car. Well, driving a car. And meds are something that you got to be really, really careful with. And I'm sure that Kevin over there could probably tell you a lot of stories about driving cars and pills and stuff like that. Stress, well, you know, that's one of those kind of things where you sort of know where your line is drawn. What do you do if you have an argument with your wife or husband or your dog or your cat or John? You know, if you don't think you can handle it, then you probably shouldn't be flying. In the Air Force, we had no choice but to fly, and everybody was afraid to say anything with the risk management chart. You know, there was, but you know, it's one of those kind of things that there has been pilots in the Air Force that have crashed airplanes, and they have traced it back to stress. A-10 pilot veered off. They were flying formation. He went right into a mountainside, and they found out that he had just had a huge, huge argument with his wife just prior to them going out and flying. And so their conclusion to that was that was at least contributory to the accident. So, you know, stress is one of those things that can, again, sneak up on you. And over a period of time, of course, it can eventually kill you if you keep under that adrenaline level. Alcohol. Do I need to say anything more about that? Unless it's rubbing alcohol.
Well, if it's clear, it's okay.
Now, I'm giving you a Mrs. A look right now, so. All right, yeah. Fatigue. Okay, fatigue, you know, that's one of those things, again. The older you get, like Malcolm and I,
Come on.
you know, but you young guys, you know, you could probably go for days and days and days and not have to worry about that. So, you know, just know your limitations. And then, of course, the last one, argument with your instructor. Of course, that falls in, again, under the stress and the arguments and all that kind of stuff. If you get into argument with your wife, husband, just be aware, are you able to focus on flying the airplane? That's the big thing. Any questions at this point? Okay, now, when you're going out to do your pre-flight, how many of you here have burned their hands on the controls going out? Yeah, I knew Malcolm did.
Drive
Tyler,
a mechanic out there.
the mechanic. Well, yeah, but you're in a doggone hangar. Good.
Right.
It can be a problem. It really can. Watch yourself, because I'm telling you, and I've burned my fingers coming out there, and especially if you're checking the empennage area, you know, you're over there and you start moving the elevator and they, oh my gosh, you know. So it's, you know, watch yourself on that. Some of you guys like Bob and Bill, who have their airplanes in a hangar, you know, that's nice, but
It's hot in here.
yeah, I know. Well, you just have a heat buildup. That's all. You need an air conditioning in your hangar. But watch yourself. It's heat can really get back at you. And then, of course, when you get inside, well, it's going to be hot. And you know, when you have a passenger or John or another instructor, you know, open the doors. You know, let the air ventilate through there. I noticed that some people, you open the door when you taxi it out, as long as you make sure that something isn't going to fall out, you know, out on the taxiway or something like that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Just you know, be cognizant of what you're doing and be situationally aware of what's happening in the airplane, and just but make sure you keep yourself cooled down. You got a big, huge fan out in front, and you can utilize it.
Hey, Roger,
Yeah.
make sure you close the door before you take off, because we had a flight instructor, Ramona, with a student. He took off, went back to Gillespie, and he left his cell phone on the runway. And he had the GPS on, he called back the control tower, he called me. I went out on the runway and there his cell phone was. Halfway down the runway.
Yeah, that's why I say if you're gonna do that with the door opening, just make sure that you don't have something that's gonna fall out. Because we do, especially here, they make a big thing out of it. They find it out there, they come in to Bob and say, we found this out there on the runway. Well, that looks like something from a KC-135, you know, it's not ours. Yeah, right. That doesn't work if it's something small. Observe the flight manual on tire inflation. What happens to the tires in the summertime?
They get hot.
Yeah, yeah, it expands, yeah. Yeah, just be aware of that. If you're taking off from here and then going up to Big Bear, what happens to the tire? And you're landing. You know, it's cooler up there.
A lot of it depends on whether you're running oxygen or air or nitrogen.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
However, air is 80% nitrogen to begin with.
Yeah, but when you have 100%, is that what you get? You put
No,
100%?
difference. It's still gonna expand.
Yeah, yeah,
Just with no moisture.
yeah. Well, it's, yeah, when you use nitrogen, then there's a lot less or no moisture. And it's actually, if you use nitrogen, even in your car, it's better because it tends to not leak like air does. And I noticed that some of the garages and those places are actually putting nitrogen in tires
It's
now.
only $20 for it.
Well, yeah, you have to pay for it, of course. Yeah. Be careful when checking the fuel cap. What can happen if you in hot weather with the fuel? Yeah, you get pressure, but we have a little thing that comes out that where the fuel, it's a vent, and sometimes when you come out the airplane, there's fuel coming out of that thing because the fuel's expanding. So that's another thing you need to watch out for. And so, knowing that, be careful when you refuel, because it might just start leaking out of that thing too. I've seen it happen throughout the years in all kinds of airplanes where the fuel will expand and do that. We even had it happen in the 141. And we had fuel venting out through the vents and just pouring out all over the ramp. And of course we had a way to stop that, but we had to, we have little pumps in there. We just turn on our pumps, and then what it does is siphon the fuel back out. But any questions? Okay, Southern California, smog and haze. I was flying back from 29 Palms one day with my wife, and I flew through Banning Pass, and right about where Yucaipa is, right around that area there, or Hemet, not Hemet, Banning, it was like a wall. I mean, it literally looked like a wall. And when I went through that wall, I could see nothing. I could see straight down the ground, but it was just totally white out because it was late afternoon, the sun was right there, and you can't see anything. Fortunately, I was able to get back to Redlands Airport because I knew where I was heading, but the problem is that, is there somebody coming from the other direction? So that was a bit scary. That's another good reason why you should get an instrument rating too. This smog that we get here can get pretty bad, and when you're coming back in from outside of the area, that can hit you real hard. Even if you just take off here, in the last few years, we have not had the smog like we've had in the past, but we still do get it, and it still can be a problem. Of course, everybody knows what a thunderstorm is. If you were here this last weekend, we had plenty of it. We had all kinds of thunderstorms going on. We've talked about that many times. Don't even try to go up and fly in a thunderstorm. Winds, you have the Santa Ana winds are in the fall, and of course you got to really watch out for that. Today the winds were blowing, and we, it's something that you got to know your limitations. If you think that you can handle it, but it's still within limits of the airplane, then by all means fly. But even if it's in the limits of the airplane, if you don't think you can withstand doing crosswinds or any of that kind of stuff, then don't do it. This is leisure flying, okay? It's not something where you have to do it for an Air Force mission or CAP mission or something like that. And then, of course, the coastal fog. For those who are IFR rated, it's kind of fun to go down to San Diego and do an IFR flight plan and fly down to San Diego, because usually the fog down there is usually about 2,000 feet off the ground, which is just right. It's not, it's not thunderstorm clouds or any of that kind of stuff, and our airplanes can handle flying through fog. And that's one of those kind of things. I know that I used to have a friend, and I used to do it all the time. And we used to fly 1-5 Foxtrot and go down there. Okay, let's see what we got else. Oh yeah, and then of course the density, altitude, climb out, watch your temperatures, and that of course is what we've talked about before. And if you want to look more in depth, look at the last safety meeting, because that's what we talked about. Basically, the bottom line is the results of increased density, altitude is significantly increased. It increases takeoff roll and lower climb rate from the published pilot handbook. Okay, now if you can sit there and figure out what your takeoff roll is out of the charts that are in your book, and then you apply it to this chart here, the Koch chart. This is what I was talking about before. And right there in the middle, where's my, whatchamacallit? I don't know if you can see it because my batteries are dying, but right there, you add this percentage to your takeoff distance as to what the POH says. And if I were you, I'd carry this. Frosty has one. And I don't know if you brought it with you or not, but yeah, it's something I would have around, just because too many people don't pay attention to density, altitude. Too many people, and there's accidents every year where people just don't, they just blow it off. And there's several stories I could tell you, but it's 7:45, and if you want to ask, I'll tell you. But let's see. David, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
No, sir.
Of course, your airplane doesn't have a problem at all. You just
But still fix it.
yes, yeah.
Water injection anymore.
No, there's no water injection anymore. Okay, let's see. We did that. Okay. I want to make sure. Okay, is everybody sign-in sheet? This isn't it. It's out there someplace. I don't know where. There are several people that did have rejects, like about $900 worth of rejects. I don't really see anybody that's in here that happened to. It's all been,
So we're all the good guys.
you're all the good guys, yeah. The people that show up here are the ones that keep up with everything, so, hopefully they will see it on the camera though. So, is there any questions, anything that anybody want to add, subtract?
With the fires. So watch out for the TFRs from the fires. We had, everyone knows the past weekend had a pretty big fire in Elm Pass.
Yeah.
The CHP helicopter was requested to go down and check on traffic and all that, and they were denied entry into the TFR. However, 5 drones somehow made it into the TFR. They're trying to figure out who the drone owners are and everything right now.
And that brings up a good issue. There has been these people who know this much about aviation, who love to put these drones together, and I'm telling you, it's becoming an increasing problem, especially in fires and that type of stuff. But these guys are flying these things all over the place. So you might want to be really, really cognizant when you're flying around out there, especially if you're making approaches into an airport someplace, like San Bernardino, where there seems to be a lot of people doing stuff like that. And I'd be really, really watchful for this stuff, because I don't know if it's happened yet. I don't think it has, but that a drone has run into an airplane yet. But I do know that there's been reports of these kind of things, and so just be aware. Boy, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people out there that just have no clue, and they know a lot about computers, and they can build these things, and they get out there and they think, oh, they're just being hot stuff, and have no idea. I know they stopped the KC-10, or KC-10, the DC-10 airdrop plane. They called it back because of drones flying around out there. So, beware. Anything else? Okay, I think that's enough. All right. Let's see. Yeah, 18 August, the next meeting. All right, I'm done.